Welcome to Reflections on the Masculine Journey with Raith. I'm Raith, and this is where we talk about wisdom, discipline, purpose, honor, and becoming the kind of man life requires. This is Masculine Journey Reflections number 4, and today's topic is discipline before emotion. In the last episode, we talked about why a man needs a code. We talked about how a man's code is really a frame statement. It tells him who he is, what he stands for, what he refuses, and what values he projects into the world. Today, we take that one step deeper, because a man can have a code written down. He can say he believes in truth, honor, discipline, responsibility, loyalty, courage, and wisdom. But the real test comes when emotion rises. The real test comes when anger shows up. The real test comes when fear speaks. The real test comes when temptation is available. The real test comes when pride wants to answer. The real test comes when pain wants to control the tongue, the body, and the decision. That is where discipline has to stand before emotion. Not because emotion is evil, not because men should be cold, not because feeling makes a man weak, but because emotion without discipline can destroy what a man says he values. A man must feel, but he must not be ruled by every feeling. That is the difference between emotional awareness and emotional slavery. Emotion is not the enemy. Let's begin with something important. Emotion is not the enemy. A man who cannot feel is not strong. He is shut down. A man who cannot grieve is not strong. He is avoiding pain. A man who cannot love is not strong. He is emotionally underdeveloped. A man who cannot admit fear is not brave. He is disconnected from truth. So when I say discipline before emotion, I am not saying a man should become numb. I am not saying he should bury everything. I'm not saying he should pretend nothing bothers him. That is not strength. That is suppression. And what a man suppresses without understanding often comes out sideways. It comes out as anger. It comes out as bitterness. It comes out as silence. It comes out as withdrawal. It comes out as addiction. It comes out as control. It comes out as cruelty. So no, emotion is not the enemy. Emotion is information. Emotion tells you something is happening inside you. Anger may tell you a boundary has been crossed. Fear may tell you there is danger or uncertainty. Sadness may tell you something mattered. Guilt may tell you your actions violated your values. Desire may tell you what you are drawn toward, but emotion is not always instruction. That is the key. Emotion gives information. Discipline decides action. A man must learn to listen to emotion without obeying it blindly. The undisciplined emotional man is not always loud. Sometimes he is. Sometimes he explodes. Sometimes he yells, threatens, insults, breaks things, or uses intimidation to get control. That is one version of emotional immaturity, but there is another version, the quiet version, the passive version, the man who shuts down, the man who disappears emotionally, the man who punishes people with silence, the man who refuses to speak honestly, the man who avoids every difficult conversation, the man who says, "I'm fine," when he is not fine, then stores resentment until it poisons the relationship. Both men are ruled by emotion. One is ruled by explosive emotion. The other is ruled by avoidant emotion. Neither one is disciplined. A disciplined man does not have to explode to be heard, and he does not have to disappear to avoid discomfort. He can stand in the moment, he can breathe, he can think, he can choose, he can speak with firmness without losing control, he can admit what he feels without letting the feeling become his master. That is masculine maturity. A man must not confuse emotional intensity with truth. Just because you feel something strongly does not mean you are seeing clearly. Anger can exaggerate, fear can distort, pride can lie, loneliness can make a bad choice look attractive, desire can make a trap look like an opportunity. That is why discipline must come before emotion, because discipline gives a man time to see clearly. Discipline is the governor of strength. A powerful engine needs a governor. Without control, power becomes dangerous. The same is true for a man. Masculine energy is powerful. A man can build, protect, lead, work, endure, fight, love, sacrifice, and create. But if that masculine energy is not governed by discipline, it can become destructive. Strength without discipline becomes intimidation. Confidence without discipline becomes arrogance. Desire without discipline becomes addiction. Anger without discipline becomes violence. Leadership without discipline becomes control. Pain without discipline becomes bitterness. That is why discipline matters. Discipline is not there to weaken a man. Discipline is there to aim him. A disciplined man is not less masculine. He is more trustworthy with his masculinity. He has power under control. He has emotion under command. He has desire under standard. He has anger under moral authority. This is what separates a dangerous man from a reckless man. A reckless man is ruled by impulse. A dangerous man is ruled by principle. And when I say dangerous, I mean dangerous to chaos, dangerous to weakness, dangerous to dishonor, dangerous to anything that tries to pull him away from his mission. That kind of man is not loud all the time. He is not always trying to prove something. He does not need every situation to know how strong he is. His discipline speaks, his restraint speaks, his consistency speaks, his frame speaks, emotion tests the code. In episode 3, we talked about a man's code, but understand this. Your code is not tested when life is easy. Your code is tested when emotion wants to override it. You say you value truth, but what happens when the truth embarrasses you? You say you value honor, but what happens when dishonor would benefit you? You say you value loyalty. But what happens when betrayal is convenient? You say you value discipline. But what happens when comfort calls your name? You say you value responsibility. But what happens when blame would be easier? You say you value wisdom. But what happens when anger wants to speak first? That is the test. A man does not know his code until his emotion challenges it. That is why emotional pressure is useful. It reveals the truth. It shows a man where he is solid and where he is weak. If a man loses his principles every time he gets angry, then anger is his real master. If a man abandons his standards every time desire appears, then desire is his real master. If a man lies every time he fears consequences, then fear is his real master. If a man becomes cruel every time he is hurt, then pain is his real master. The question is simple. Who is in command? The man or the emotion? Discipline before emotion means the man remains in command. The pause is power. One of the most important skills a man can develop is the pause. The pause is the space between feeling and acting. That space is where maturity lives. A boy feels and reacts. A man feels, pauses, evaluates, and then acts. That pause may only be 3 seconds, but those 3 seconds can save a marriage. They can save a friendship. They can save a job. They can save a reputation. They can save a man from saying something he cannot take back. They can save a man from making a decision that costs him years. The pause allows a man to ask, what am I feeling? What is actually happening? What is the truth? What does my code require? What will this action create? Will I respect myself after this? Am I acting from principle or impulse? That is frame. Frame is not just confidence. Frame is the ability to remain aligned with your values under pressure. A man's frame is revealed in the pause. When insulted, does he collapse? When tempted, does he surrender? When pressured, does he abandon his standards? When emotional, does he lose his center? Or does he pause, remember who he is, and act from his code? The pause is not weakness. The pause is command presence. Anger in the masculine journey. Let's talk specifically about anger. Many men struggle with anger. Some express too much of it. Some deny they have it. Some carry old anger from childhood, betrayal, failure, divorce, grief, or disappointment. Anger is often a protective emotion. It can rise when a man feels disrespected, ignored, powerless, humiliated, threatened, or wounded. Sometimes anger points to something real. Sometimes a boundary has been crossed. Sometimes injustice has occurred. Sometimes action is required. But anger is a dangerous driver. Anger can give energy, but it does not always give wisdom. A man must learn to ask, what is beneath this anger? Is it fear? Is it shame? Is it hurt? Is it pride? Is it exhaustion? Is it a real violation? Is it an old wound reacting to a new situation? This matters because if a man does not understand his anger, he may punish the wrong person. He may respond to the present as if it were the past. He may turn a small conflict into a war. He may damage someone he loves. He may mistake volume for authority. But a disciplined man studies his anger. He does not deny it. He does not worship it. He examines it. He asks what it is trying to protect. Then he decides what action is actually honorable. Sometimes the honorable action is confrontation. Sometimes it is silence. Sometimes it is walking away. Sometimes it is setting a boundary. Sometimes it is apologizing. Sometimes it is admitting, I am angry, but I need a moment, so I do not speak out of that anger. That is strength. That is discipline before emotion, desire and temptation. Anger is not the only emotion that tests men. Desire does too. Many men lose themselves not because they were angry, but because they were tempted. Tempted by attention, tempted by comfort, tempted by lust, tempted by laziness, tempted by escape, tempted by shortcuts, tempted by the easy path. Desire says, you deserve this. Discipline asks, what will this cost? Desire says, just this once. Discipline asks, what pattern am I feeding? Desire says, nobody will know. Honor asks, but will I know? That is the battle. A man's private life is where much of his code is either strengthened or weakened. The things he consumes, the habits he permits, the thoughts he feeds, the shortcuts he takes, the fantasies he entertains, the excuses he repeats, these things shape him. A man must understand that every repeated indulgence becomes a form of training. If he repeatedly trains himself to choose comfort, he becomes softer. If he repeatedly trains himself to avoid hard things, he becomes weaker. If he repeatedly trains himself to lie, he becomes divided. If he repeatedly trains himself to give in to appetite, appetite becomes his master. Discipline is how a man remains free, not free to do anything, free to do what is right, free to become who he claims to be. Discipline in relationships, discipline before emotion, is especially important in relationships. A man's emotional discipline affects how he loves, leads, argues, apologizes, listens, and protects. A woman, a child, a friend, or a family member should not have to wonder which version of a man is going to walk into the room. Will it be the calm man, the angry man, the silent man, the sarcastic man, the defensive man, the withdrawn man, the loving man? A man who is emotionally undisciplined makes others live around his instability. That is not leadership. That is emotional weather. One day sunny, one day storming, one day warm, one day freezing. A disciplined man works to become consistent. He may still have bad days. He may still feel deeply. He may still need space. But he does not make everyone else responsible for managing his inner world. He learns to communicate. He learns to say, I need a minute. I am frustrated, but I want to handle this right. I hear you. I was wrong. I need to think before I answer. That crossed a boundary. I love you, but I will not speak in anger. These are not weak statements. They are disciplined statements. They project frame. They show that the man is present, aware, and in command of himself. And self-command is one of the highest forms of masculine strength. How to practice discipline before emotion. So how does a man practice this? First, know your triggers. Every man has emotional patterns. Some men react to disrespect. Some react to criticism. Some react to rejection. Some react to feeling controlled. Some react to feeling ignored. Some react to failure. Some react to fear of not being enough. A man must know what pulls him out of frame. Second, create a pause habit. Before responding to emotional pressure, breathe. Ask one question. What does my code require right now? That question brings you back to center. Third, name the emotion. Do not just say, I'm mad. Ask what kind of mad. Am I angry because I am hurt? Am I angry because I feel disrespected? Am I angry because I am afraid? Am I angry because I know I was wrong? Naming the emotion gives you authority over it. Fourth, choose the honorable action, not the easiest action, not the loudest action, not the most satisfying action, the honorable action. Fifth, review afterward. At the end of the day, ask, where did emotion lead me today? Where did discipline lead me? Where did I stay in frame? Where did I lose it? What must I correct tomorrow? That is how a man grows, not by pretending he never fails, but by refusing to leave failure unexamined. Practical exercise. Before we close, I want to give you a simple exercise. Write this sentence at the top of a page, discipline before emotion. Then answer these 5 questions. 1. What emotion most often pulls me out of frame? Anger, fear, pride, desire, shame, loneliness? 2. What situation usually triggers it? Criticism, disrespect, rejection, conflict, stress, temptation? 3. What do I usually do when that emotion takes over? Do I explode, withdraw, lie, avoid, overeat, overspend, chase attention? 4. What does my code require instead? Truth, patience, courage, restraint, accountability, a direct conversation. 5. What is one phrase I can use to pause myself? For example, I need a moment before I answer. I will not speak from anger. What does my code require? This feeling is real, but it is not my master. That phrase can become a tool. Use it, practice it, repeat it, because the moment you learn to pause between feeling and action, you begin to regain command. This has been Masculine Journey Reflections number 4, Discipline Before Emotion. I'm Raith, and this is Reflections on the Masculine Journey with Raith. Today we talked about why emotion is not an enemy, but emotion must be governed by discipline. We talked about how anger, fear, desire, pride, and pain can pull a man out of frame if he has not trained himself to pause, think, and act from his code. A man does not become stronger by denying his emotions. He becomes stronger by mastering his response to them. That is discipline. That is frame. That is masculine maturity. If this message speaks to you, subscribe to the channel, follow the podcast, and share this episode with another man who is learning to master himself. Leave a comment with this answer. What emotion most often pulls men out of frame? In the next episode, we will continue the journey by discussing truth, honor, and integrity. Until then, remember, emotion gives information, discipline chooses action, and a man who can govern himself can begin to lead his life.